So glad to have you back for another edition of Daily Scone. Thanks so much for being here. Yesterday's episode, awesome, man. Loved chatting with my guy, Jordy Culotta, host of Off the Bench, weekday morning, 7 to 9, ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge. He was good enough to join us to answer questions that a listener had about how to put together a morning show, a morning sports talk radio show, given the schedule. So Jordy, in the last episode, laid out that schedule. But while I had him here, we recorded another episode, which you're about to hear, and it's about the art of booking guests, because quite honestly, there's nobody I know better at doing that than Jordy. So here's his secrets, his tricks of the trade of how to go about booking fire guests for your radio show, for your podcast, for your vlog, whatever it may be. Jordy Culotta, Part 2, booking guests. Enjoy. I want to talk to you while I got a few minutes left about booking guests, because if there's one thing that I think you do better than anybody that I know, it's the hustle to get guests, because it just look at the rundown. So what do you do?
I think the example I could give you that you would probably relate to the best is you and I were doing After Further Review and walk-ons. I believe it was 2010, the first year that I was here, and Jarrett Lee and Jordan Jefferson were in a quarterback controversy, and Jarrett Lee just walked in. Remember that? And we looked up, and I was like, there's Jarrett Lee right there. And we were like, I wonder if he'd get on the radio. I said, well, I'm going to ask him. And
I do remember.
And remember, we had LSU personnel going crazy because they wanted to know why Jarrett Lee was on live radio in Baton Rouge talking about the quarterback controversy. I mean, but that was it. Like, I worked in Chicago. My first radio job was 2000. It was 2000, the summer of 2000, working for the Wrigley Field Radio Network. It's summer of Sammy Sosa hitting the home runs. My first day on the job was St. Louis Cardinals visiting the Chicago Cubs at Wrigley Field, and I'm sitting on the deal, and Mark McGwire's the guy, right? And I'm sitting there with this Jim Wilson was his name. My guy, 1 Hour AC, is the same name. But he was the program director at the Wrigley Field Radio Network up in Chicago, and I'm sitting there looking at Mark McGwire, like he the legend that he is, and I'm 20. I'm like, golly, man, it'd be unbelievable if I could interview this guy on my first day on the job. Jim Wilson says, well, how do you know he won't? And I said, I don't know if he won't or not. He said, well, go over there and ask him. And I went and asked him. He was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, first, I don't even know what I asked him. I'm like shaking with the candidate. But it was a great lesson when he got back to the studio. He's like, look, man, the interview's terrible. We can't use any of the content. The audio's pathetic. But that's how you get interviews in our business. You're never going to know unless you ask. And he told me at the end of that summer, look, what you do have at 20 years old, Jordy, is you have a great idea on how to network. You're a great networker. Like, you can go into a room and you may not know a lot of people, but by about 5 or 6 minutes in, you've done the work to kind of introduce yourself, and you're in some circles and people will talk to you. Use that as an advantage. Go talk to people. They'll talk back. Ask them if they want to go on the radio. What could the worst thing they can tell you is no. And a lot of the times, people want to hear themselves speak, and they want to talk about themselves. And that's what you're doing by inviting them onto the radio. So you'll be surprised by the times that you get the yes when you expect to hear no, by just going up and asking.
Do you book more from text, calling,
yes.
direct? Do you go through like the facilitating channels of like SIDs or
no? Like Lane Kiffin, I met at a passing academy at the Manning Passing Academy. And met him and was able to just kind of spark a small conversation. Told him I was with the radio group, would love to get him on the radio sometime. He had an assistant with him. I got her number. From there, I got his number. Next thing you know, he and I are texting back about quarterback play, about the kid at U High. Does he go, hey, man, you mind coming on the radio? 3 times later, since he's been at Florida Atlantic, he's been on our radio show. And I think that's just by networking, asking, keeping up relationship. And, I'll text him. I called Doug Williams last week, got his phone number. I texted him last night just to, hey, we're good, confirming tomorrow morning. Absolutely. So once I get your contact, you're dead. You are dead. And I will screenshot anytime somebody sends me hey, thanks for joining me this morning. They'll send back anytime.
Yeah.
I'll screenshot that, send it back to them and say, we have this on file forever, right? Because I will blow you. Jay Billis told me Anytime. And I texted him back-to-back weeks, and he said, I really didn't mean anytime.
Got him!
Yeah, right.
So is it better to call or to text?
I would say in 2018 it's better to text, just because that seems to be the first form of communication for everybody these days. A lot of people like to be just quick to the point. Hey, man, can you join us tomorrow morning, 7:30 Central? No. Yes. It's simple. I mean, like calling and, hey, this is Jordy Culotta from 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'd love to have you on. We know that you're – get to the point. Text seems to me to be the most effective point, but you have to have that relationship embedded first. A lot of people won't respond to a text from somebody that they don't know. I mean, like they want to know the background of the show. They want to make sure that they're getting on a platform that they're going to expose themselves to, good production. I mean, they don't just come on and sit on with anybody. So, I mean, you've gotten – they're doing their due diligence as well, right? They want to find out on us as much as we want to find out on them. So it's all about the relationships, and SEC Media Days, Scone, for you and I was early on. I'd get in Booger's back pocket, and Booger would walk me around while you were on, and we'd be flagging you down. Guess before I even had a show, they sent us up there just to do AFR.
Yeah.
Right? And we were doing like 5 hours of AFR, and you were just like, go get me, go, bro, field dog.
Yeah, we'd like tag team the show for.
Remember,
like,
I had
from one to yeah. You'd have that like an IFB.
I rig on, and we'd be talking to people on the floor.
Yeah.
Right? And Booger would put me in his back pocket and say, look, LSU football, here's the team. They got the ESPN Baton Rouge guys downstairs. Sorry.
Check those blinds, bro.
Sorry about that. and here's the guy. Like, get his contact. If you want to talk LSU football, he'll get you on if he wants to hear about. So, I mean, like those types of opportunities, SEC Media Days, the SEC spring meetings, which I think we missed the boat on every year. I mean, just for a networking opportunity. You've got all of the decision makers from the SEC with their coaches in flip-flops and sandals.
Right.
I mean, flip-flops and swimsuits.
Hanging out, drinking Mai
Yeah,
Tais.
just hanging out. I mean, they'll give you – the first time Ed Ogeron spoke about Joe Burrow, SEC spring meetings.
Yeah.
So –
all right, last thing, I'll let you bounce because I don't want to take up too much of your time. For the guy or gal that's listening right now that doesn't have a show, they're trying to get in. And so, like, something I encourage people to do, man, like, when you have this, when you have a phone, just start. Like, it's free to start a podcast. It's free to do a YouTube show. It's free to do a Facebook. Just start. So if you're coming from that standpoint, though, and you want to get a guest, but you don't have their contact, like you're saying, you network, you get contacts, and that's how you go. But if you're just starting, like, square one, what would you say they do, like, if they want to go get a guest?
Social media. Everybody is exposed and accessible on social media these days. Doesn't matter if it's an athlete, if it's an entertainer. They either have a website, you can DM them, you can get to their direct messages, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, or on their Twitter biography or on their biography of any of those social medias, they'll have an email or a way to get in touch with them. Utilize that. Explain who you are, explain what your intent is by asking them to come on the show, and I'll go back to what Jim Wilson told me from the Wrigley Field Radio Network. The worst thing they can tell you is no. And that's all good. Once you hear it for the first time, your feelings hurt. Second time, not so bad. Third time, let's keep rolling. I got to find the yes. I mean, like, you just start getting into people, and you find their find them. On social media, people are accessible. And as long as you're not threatening, hey, look, man, I'm a local radio host down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I just started a podcast. I'm passionate about it. I'd love to have you on to talk about whatever your expertise is. Here's some of the questions I may ask you. Make them comfortable, right? Don't invite them into some environment where they're going to be shocked and be like, whoa, what's going on? Hey, look, I'm going to have you on, and this is what we're going to discuss. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that I may have left out from the topics that I'd like to discuss? Is there anything in the topics I want to discuss that you maybe feel uncomfortable about? Let them feel you're inviting them into your house. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable and respected while you get there. If there's going to be some topics and things that may come up that may make some people uneasy, I'm not against my guests knowing that going in. That's fine. It's okay. I mean, we're going to talk about this. Are you good with that? No, I'm really not. Well, this is my angle of what it was going to be. Maybe can we talk about it from there? Okay. Yeah, that might be a good launch point to get there. And they'll respect you for that, and that'll leave the door open for them to come back on. I hate having guests on one time. To me, I think it's a failure in what we try to do in networking and building this Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? My phone, this thing is so valuable for me professionally because it has everybody who I think is a news maker and somebody that can help our program and show out is sitting right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to go back to Marcus Allen, who I met at Patrick Peterson's golf tournament 2 years ago, and ask him, hey, man, if we're talking USC running backs one day, you mind 10 minutes? And you have that relationship built in. And the challenge isn't just getting them on. I think keeping those relationships and keeping yourself accessible for times down the line. I think it's a success that Lane Kiffin's been on our show more than once. You know, he understands the value of it. He knows that there's all types of athletes and football players in South Louisiana, but he also feels comfortable enough on our show to come back on. And I think that's a compliment to us.
If you get your contact, you're dead.
Dead. Dead.
The stalker.
Don't let me get a cell phone number.
Thanks for the time, bro.
Always, bro. Thanks.
Really hope you enjoyed the conversation. Can't thank Jordy enough for spending a couple of minutes and sharing his experiences. As always, if there's something here that struck you and you think somebody might benefit from it, please pass it on. Hit the share button, subscribe to this podcast, go back and listen to past episodes. And if there's something about media, about sports media that's always struck you, a question you had, fire away, man. Let us know. We'll get it addressed. If I don't have the answer, I'll find someone with great experience that does, that'll come on and pass along those experiences. So the idea, as I've said so many times, is for this to be a resource for people in media or who aspire to be in media to share secrets and tricks of the trade. So if you got questions, please, by all means, fire away in the comments section, however you're listening to this or watching, consuming this right now, or email me directly, mattmoscona@gmail.com, MattMoscona, mattmoscona@gmail.com, and find me on all the social media platforms. Thanks for being here. Another edition of Daily Scone.